Okay, ping theory of consciousness. The fish is getting chased by a larger predator. I came up with this the other day. It goes up on land. Excuse me, just got out of the ocean. And then it has its brain is this amplifier for consciousness. Every consciousness is permeating everything. So it sends a ping back, like a sonar ping, back to source consciousness, and that source consciousness then sends a ping of information back to the fish, and that causes the fish to the fish says it needs to live out of water longer. It needs to be able to breathe air. So that ping sends the information back to slowly start kind of like a process of evolution. And, to basically have the information encoded within it to slowly evolve to be able to live longer on land. Our brains, if consciousness permeates everything, our brain is the antenna which amplifies it, which gives us conscious experience. Now, qualia, if you want to call that, qualia are the flavors of certain things, the smells of certain things, the taste of blue, the smell of blue, the sight of blue, the experience of blue, the smell of blue, all those things. So when you put that into context, that makes, I'm not an atheist or a theist either, but I think that makes a little bit of sense as far as, if everything was coming from a field of consciousness, or consciousness is permeating, going through everything, then there's really no, it's kind of like everybody's right and wrong. Nobody has to be, on the bottom, nobody has to be in the top. It's just my friend who's an atheist, let's say, I'm not an atheist or theist, can have an atheistic experience by accessing, let's say, like collective consciousness. I think Jungian terminology here. This field of, or just think like a field of consciousness. By choosing to be an atheist, they start lining their antenna up with atheistic viewpoints. A theist, by being a theist in whatever they're into, starts lining their antenna up by accessing states of consciousness that have to deal with theism. But all that information in the collective consciousness, collective unconsciousness, think tree of life too, some of the symbolism with the branches, things spreading out, but it's all kind of on the same tree. All that information is present there. It just needs the antenna, the brain, the conscious observer, to kind of like choose what they want, to then basically choose that path. It doesn't mean somebody's going to choose to want wings and then they're going to get wings. Rather, what they might get is a mindset which might allow them to then seek out somebody or something which can help them build some set of wings. An airplane, look at what the Wright brothers did. So, I think that's an interesting thing when you think about it. It's like information pinging back and forth, and then source consciousness. I don't know what you want to call that, cosmic consciousness. Every name of every deity, every name of every scientist, theorem, things, everything's in there. It's kind of like if you have a pseudo-scientific viewpoint, if you send the ping back, it's gonna eventually, even your pseudo-scientific theories might have some truth come out of them, because the things which are old within the pseudo-scientific theory will be shed, and then it's like a snake shedding skin, and then you'll keep learning, studying the theory. Then eventually you might hit a brick wall where you realize your theory is irrelevant, in the larger sphere of things, but you've learned a lot along the way that helped you evolve. So that kind of helps deal with those types of things. So anyway, it's just a thought. I call it ping theory of consciousness. Just something I was thinking about. Why I have a hard time being an atheist or a theist is from observation, just being silent and observing. I just see too many things that make too much sense for both sides. And I don't feel like it's advantageous for personal growth or the way that I treat others, my consciousness, in general. to choose a path for myself. I think that that's in itself is its own path, choosing your own thing. That's not going against the grain, because if you're just living in life and you're being peaceful, then you're not really going against the grain. I think, though, if everybody's having their own conscious experience, the only, wrong thing, if you want to call it that, is to disturb the peace, if that makes sense. And that's almost like the most simplistic thing. It's like why I think we see the golden rule and all the belief structures. It's like all the other stuff was just culturally put around the golden rule, kind of, to kind of build dogma and religion around the golden rule. And some of the other stuff is valid, from cultural standpoints. But, if you strip it all away and the golden rule's all that's left, then it's kind of like, imagine every culture on planet Earth getting together and being like, oh, wow, I want to be treated with respect and other people do. So leave your cultural beliefs at the door and just, immerse yourself in other cultures and kind of coexist in peace or whatever. I would think if you were meeting some culture that had some very interesting things, let's say that, clitoral mutilation, that might rub a, Caucasian person from Europe the wrong way. But if those two cultures were to meet, I don't think it would necessarily be getting into the nitty gritty of other cultures necessarily. You might discuss things, but I don't think that, if you're not going to go into a village, you're not just going to expose you to everything right off the rip, if that makes sense. You'd probably be warmed up to something. It's like you ever go into a town and then eventually you've been in a town for like a year and you start seeing like certain like things come out that people do, like locals do or something. It's kind of like that. But anyway, it's just a thought. And if some girl's willing to have her genitals mutilated because it makes her feel like a rite of passage, that's their choice. And you have to coexist in peace, because you could really make that girl like feel weird about something if you say, well, in my culture that doesn't happen, and you wouldn't want to do that. You can't, your personal belief can't, be so great. You might think it's unethical, weird that somebody's doing something, but your personal belief does not give you the right to shove your belief on somebody like it's the truth. You have to have a mind to discuss stuff and work stuff through. You can't be the type of person that's, somebody's claiming their belief in something overrides yours because they say their belief has power. But it's kind of like, well, if your belief is, you're kind of stirring the pot by saying things like that. It's better just to kind of take the standpoint of peace and just kind of advocate for peace and understanding and coexisting in peace and, practicing the golden rule. And then whatever happens behind closed doors, remove yourself from that and let those cultures do their personal things behind closed doors. Don't impede on their personal freedoms. But it's just a thought. Anyway, so that's ping theory in a nutshell. The thing about, we can see this everywhere we go. We go into a new city, and, you're like in the inner city, let's say, as a Caucasian person, and there's a lot of things that you start sending pings back, and it's almost like you start getting guided by this other, I don't know what you want to call this other, maybe to quote, like, I don't know if it was McKenna that used that terminology, if it was Jung or someone, some philosopher, some psychologist, but that other kind of guides you, and I think that's what consciousness is. It's not that you're going to like hallucinate, a cup of coffee, and the next thing you're going to have a cup of coffee. You have to like think of the steps to get the cup of coffee. It's not just going to manifest within you. But I think when it comes to down to evolution, there's something, to that. Maybe you send a ping back, or the fish sends the ping back, and that source consciousness then sends the ping back, and that helps encode something within DNA, which in so many generations, then the thing, evolves to be able to walk on land and breathe air. But anyways, it's just a thought.